Hello, traveller. I have a few stories to share, collected from various places. Some from the Brass Coast, some from Dawn, some from Highguard. We'll see where they take us. This first one comes from the Brass Coast. Not just from anywhere in the Brass Coast. From the personal library. Well, it's a copy of the story in the personal library of Marcela e Erigo. I think I've said that right. Who is host for the egregore spirit of the Freeborn. This story is the Virtuous Corsair. There once was a Corsair who had inherited a ship from her wife. The ship had been her wife's proudest possession, the Wave Dancer, finest boat in the fleet. And so, in memory of her wife, the Corsair set out to sea to fight the Assaveans. Now, what follows may not be the whole truth, for the story has been retold, changed, forgotten, and remembered a number of times, but this is how it was told to me. She had a varied and loyal crew, as all captains should be proud to have, yet she lacked experience as well as wisdom, and so when they heaved to as quickly and efficiently as they had ever done, the Corsair was not prepared for what was to come. For the first week at sea, they had nothing but good sailing and spirits were high, and the Corsair seemed to do her duty as navigator and captain as best she could. But her vigilance was lacking, and she did not see the clouds on the horizon, and so they sailed on. For the second week at sea, the winds picked up, and by the suggestion of one of her crew, the sails were slackened. But though he was worried and counselled wisdom, her vigilance was lacking, and she did not notice how cold the wind had dropped, or how far they had drifted off course. And so they sailed on. At the start of the third week at sea, there was a great storm, which buffeted the ship from all sides. From across the sea, a rolling fog enveloped the ship in darkness and damp. The crew battened down the hatches, but the captain refused to go below decks, scared by the enclosed space below, and so she stayed at the helm, alone and afraid. Suddenly, from the fog, there came groaning and creaking. The Corsair leaned out to see what was coming in the mist. A great shadowy limb reached for her, but her vigilance was lacking, and so she moved too slowly, and the Kraken reached across her bow, struck her, and dragged her down into the icy depths. She was pulled deep, deep into the water, until the lights of her ship were like stars above her. Still down, down she went, until she knew that if she did not act, she would perish beneath the waves. And so the Corsair called upon the Virtues, her heart finding courage. Her hands scrabbled at her belt for the knife she carried there. Grasping it, she struck the Kraken's limb and freed herself from its grasp. She was buffeted and pushed by the creature's grip, not knowing which way was up, but with her newfound courage, she stilled her mind and called upon wisdom. And so she let herself go limp, until she felt her body right herself. She closed her eyes until she could feel which way was up, and then she swam. She swam as hard as she could, as strong as she had ever swum. And just before she felt the darkness that claims those who have breathed too little reach for her, she saw the outline of her ship, its dolphin-shaped stern and familiar scarred hull. And with a final push of determination born of her ambition, she broke the surface of the water. When the Corsair called out, her crew immediately rushed to action. Once more on the deck of her ship, she smiled at her crew. No prouder captain could I be with such a crew. You have survived the Kraken strike, even as I have. When we return, I shall repay you all, not just in coin, but with a medal each to show the loyalty you have shown to me. And her boatswain smiled. The Virtues have brought you from the Kraken's grasp, for how else could you be here now? The Corsair looked up at the sun. The storm has broken, she said, and there is wind to travel home. Boatswain replied, yes, but we do not know which way to travel. And she laughed, for there, with new-found vigilance, she could see shapes in the distance, jumping out of the water. I see dolphins. I swear by every coin in my purse, and more besides, that they are the same who swim off the coast. And if we follow them, we will soon navigate our way home. And so the wave dancer set sail again. In the first week, they followed the dolphins, remaining vigilant for any Asavean ships. In the second week, the sun revealed its face, and they feasted on fish, for their catch was prosperous. In the third week, the lights at the harbour beckoned them in, and they arrived safely home. Few believed them when they spoke of the Kraken, but when they saw the Corsair's wounds they cheered, and declared her the most courageous captain they had ever seen, and all of the crew were handsomely paid, and the feast that followed was most virtuous indeed. It's a very Freeborn story. I'm told it has very particular overtones to the Freeborn, but even as a Donish troubadour, I can tell that it is a story of virtue, a story of its lack, a story of its gain. It is, in its way, not too dissimilar from the story of Elaine that I told. I still tell. My name is Galeas. I am a troubadour and knight-errant of dawn. I hope you have found this story interesting, perhaps even virtuous. If you have, perhaps you would share it again. I'll see you next time, traveller.